This episode of The Biased Tech Geek is brought to you by Steve Widman Communications and Steve Widman Communications Repair and Diagnostic Division. Hello once again, audience. It's The Biased Tech Geek here to share with you one of my most favorite games of all time. With the upcoming release of the new Dragonborn DLC for Skyrim, I have to just go back to my roots to what introduced me to the Elder Scrolls games. Back in the day, when I was much younger than I am now, I got a little game called Oblivion, and it changed my life. With over 150 hours put into this game, it just blew my mind. But that's not really the true story of how it all started. I actually played the game the first few hours in and found it just too massive and too much of a, I'd say just a time consumption game. I really didn't like it at first, so it took a few months before I picked it up again, and this was back when I was playing it on the Xbox 360. This is gameplay of me playing it on the PC now. So if you see me make a few mistakes, it's just because I haven't gotten the controls down. Because I will say the Elder Scrolls games do have different controls compared to most other games. But what I really want to talk about first is the first time after playing Oblivion to the max, literally unlocking everything, picking up Skyrim for the first time in, I think it was November of 2011. Now, this game, I anticipated it forever. It was just going to be phenomenal. And it lived up to the hype. Probably even more so. I mean, just everything you could do, every little aspect, all of the programming. And especially taking classes in programming myself and see how you actually obtain that in a game makes it just so unbelievable what the development team has gone through. And I can finally say now that I've put well over 100 hours and a lot of gameplay into Skyrim, with especially my very limited schedule. Now, on with the rest. Now, going back to Oblivion, playing it again, probably 2-3 years after finally completing it, I will say that I find it very much just not Skyrim. I mean, Skyrim is just almost perfect, a perfect game. I mean, I would give it a 10 out of 10 any day. But coming back to Oblivion, and back in the day, I gave it a 10 out of 10. There's just it almost seems mediocre. I mean, the controls, I remember feeling that the controls were just so fluid in Oblivion. But, I mean, just after playing Skyrim, for example, I mean, it's just so different. And the voice acting, I mean, they had a very limited cast for their voice acting in Oblivion, so the game didn't feel as alive as it does in Skyrim. But to come back and see all that again, it just really is mind-blowing. But also, just the questing and the story and the role-playing, I mean, the role-playing aspect was so different. But Skyrim really brought back what a role-playing game should feel like, especially an open-world one. And just that's what I've always wanted that in a game, back when I first started playing video games. And that was a long time ago. But I always wanted to be able to be free to do whatever I want. And just, the Elder Scrolls games bring that atmosphere to the game. It's just so amazing and just mind-numbing how open and literally you can do everything. And like games like Grand Theft Auto, I don't think give justice to people who really truly understand what an open world game is. It's all about exploration. It's about being someone that just you can't possibly be in real life. I mean, I'm not trying to criticize people out there who, want to be a Dragonborn for a living, but it's just, for the rest of us, it really brings the true hero out. And I think especially when you get to create your own character, I mean, Oblivion, that's the one thing that Skyrim didn't evolve in that Oblivion had. I mean, the graphics were better on a character, but the overall, I think, creating a character is about an 8 to 9 out of 10. I mean, I think they're so close to getting to the point where they can make a character look exactly like you. You can literally use the controls. You don't have to have like facial recognition equipment or anything. You can literally take the time out of your day to create a character that looks exactly like you or someone you know or have seen. It really is truly amazing. Now, something that I finally did as I was playing Skyrim, and there came a point where I really wanted to learn more about the Elder Scrolls series. And so I went back and I bought a game called Morrowind, the predecessor to Oblivion, because I heard it was the absolute best Elder Scrolls game they had ever made. So I wanted to see if that was true. Now, I know a lot of you older people, or older than me, are going to say, well, it's not all about gameplay, you know, and everything. But just, I mean, I thought going from Skyrim to Oblivion again, after years of not playing Oblivion, was, I thought it was funny the way I had looked at Oblivion before. But then going as far back as Morrowind after playing Skyrim, it was just... It was like, really, the series has evolved this much? It was just so mind-numbing. I mean, it was just... I know I keep using mind-numbing, but that's really how I felt. I mean, I didn't know if it was real, because the way I had thought about the game was entirely different, and I didn't know if that had to do with my maturity or anything of how I felt the game, but just being... It was almost like being desensitized to the series after playing a better version. I mean, basically, they're not the same game, but they're the same series, so they are like the same game because they're part of the universe. And that just really comes down to how the way I felt playing the game. And I think it's going to be funny later when I make newer videos and a new Elder Scrolls game is out, how I felt about Skyrim, and maybe I'll feel exactly the same way. I'll play Elder Scrolls 6 and go, wow, and then go back to Skyrim, you know, and go, wow, this is crap, you know. And I don't think Oblivion's crap, it's just not Skyrim. I mean, it's evolved so much, and I think the development team has done so much, and especially looking forward to on February 5th, when the Dragonborn DLC comes out for PC, which is what I have Skyrim on PC. I think it's going to blow my mind even more. And I mean, I remember getting the Dawnguard DLC and seeing, wow, I mean, they just keep adding to the series again and again, and it just gets better and better, and then adding Hearthfire and adding even more content. I mean, people have been spending so much time in Hearthfire, just creating houses and adopting children and defending it. I mean, that just adds gameplay. And don't even get me started. I mean, I've never touched mods. I feel like it takes away from the true aspect of what the developers wanted to make of the game and the universe. So I haven't tried mods, and I might eventually. But for now, as I try to beat Dragonborn, I'm going to stay mod-free. And I mean, I know y'all are like, ooh, texture mods make the game look prettier, but I want to experience the game the way developers wanted me to experience the game, and how the universe... I mean, it's not Skyrim if it has more foliage, you know? I mean, maybe Skyrim didn't have that much foliage. I mean, just adding foliage doesn't make it a better game. But then again, just going back to Morrowind and the graphics and just the gameplay, I almost felt like the gameplay was broken. The whole combat system, just the way you do everything, you just sit there and click your button until you get a hit for who knows how long. But that's just... I need to bring in our guest star. He's been waiting here, and he is... I mean, back to roots. I mean, we're talking text role-playing, paper role-playing. I mean, hardcore role-playing. And it's just, I want to bring him in here to talk about his experience, because he's only played Morrowind, and I really want him to talk about this.
What's up, YouTube? This is Inferno Demon 2005. I'm the guest for this episode. But yes, as he said, I do go way back with role-playing games. I used to play text-based adventure games back on the PC, and those were a pain. Whenever you have to solve all these puzzles, only given a few items and a few keys and clues as to what you have to do, that's a real big problem. But a lot of people did it and had fun with it. But really, role-playing games for me go back to I guess the Final Fantasy series, because Final Fantasy II for Super Nintendo was my very first actual known RPG, which for those who don't know, 2 was actually 4, I do believe, here in the States. It was a weird mix-up with release, but we won't go into that. I've been going since then, and whenever I heard about the Elder Scrolls series, I was like, holy crap, I've got to check that out. This sounds pretty interesting, pretty awesome. And I did. I first got into it in Morrowind. Boy, was I wrong. A lot of people love the Elder Scrolls games, but I can't stand it. It's a 3D first-person game, as you all know. So I expect, whenever I swing at a monster, to hit them. I don't want to see the sword go straight through them, contact them, or whatever, and I see the word miss. That just doesn't fly with me. So, anyway, whenever I first stepped into Morrowind, completed the tutorial area, and after that I'm walking down the road to your first major city that you have to go to. Well, after that, a few minutes later, this guy just falls out of the sky. I'm thinking, cool, free loot. Not often does that happen. So I loot his body, get some mage robes, a journal, which I'm thinking, oh, books? Boring. I don't want to read. So I just kind of sort of store it aside, sell it later, I'm thinking. And then I see 3 scrolls. Scroll of Icarian Flight. Oh, cool. Well, I should have thought better. Icarus wasn't very good at flying, and neither were those scrolls. Took one giant leap for mankind, and went splat. Boy, was I laughing at myself that day. I'll tell you that right now. Anyways, later on down the road, I did look into Oblivion a little bit. I thought that was way better than Morrowind. However, I still could not stand the swing and miss mechanic. That annoyed me to no end. How many times I would have to swing at a monster or some guy trying to kill me on the highway before I finally got a hit. Although it was kind of funny whenever I saw arrows clearly hit me in the face and it still said miss and I took no damage. I thought that was kind of cool. But other than that, the hit and miss mechanic annoyed me. Now with Skyrim, I love it. The only problem I have with it now is it's way too open world. I'm used to the Japanese RPGs, and most of those, while they do have an open world, give you direction. Go here, do this. And it's very well laid out. But with Oblivion and Skyrim and all of the Elder Scrolls games, I felt overwhelmed by the choices that you have. I love the series, and I'm actually excited for the next one, which, if you don't know, is actually going to be Elder Scrolls Online. I'd hate to see how bad they're going to butcher it, but anyway. I love the concept. It's just not my kind of game. Anyway, here's the Biased Tech Geek back at you with some more.
Here again is Biased Tech Geek, here to finally wrap up the story on my experiences with the Elder Scrolls. And looking forward to the new Dragonborn DLC, a few new things that really make me excited for it. As you might know, there's an expansion for the Elder Scrolls Oblivion called the Shivering Isles. This is basically the Shivering Isles on steroids for Skyrim DLC. I mean, we're talking tons of new dungeons, whole new landmass added, just like the Shivering Isles, new questline that's just, I hear, is epic. I mean, I'm not reading too much into it, but I hear it's going to be outstanding. And the ability to ride dragons. Now, riding dragons isn't a new concept, as my friend, the Inferno Demon, would say, but I think it's just going to change. I mean, it's open world. I mean, it's a mount. It will take you anywhere. And it's just going to add new concepts in gameplay that just haven't been seen. And I know the Dragonborn DLC is already out for Xbox, but for all us PC people who haven't really they've been trying to keep spoiler free, I think it's going to really just be yet again mind-blowing. But I especially look forward to new enemies in a game. That is really important to me. And I've been looking at the concept art of the new enemies, and just some of the designs are just really cool. And I mean, I know dragons are fun to slay and stuff in the regular game, but I think this added gameplay will allow us to have more fun and new experiences. And I mean, with the new items and everything and the new armor sets, it's just going to add more variety. And especially, I mean, to a game that was already just worth more than the $60 you paid for it, to be able to get more content for a very little price. I mean, they've been working their butts off at Bethesda, and it's just unbelievable. And finally, just I cannot recommend enough to go out. If you don't already own Skyrim, buy Skyrim. I mean, you don't have to start with Oblivion or Morrowind. You really can jump into any Elder Scrolls game, and it's a whole new, you just are introduced to the series, you're introduced to the world, the fantasy, the role-playing, and it's worth every penny. And if you can afford even more, get the Dragonborn DLC, because I'm sure it's going to be worth it. Well, this segment of the Biased Tech Geek was here to celebrate a wonderful life in the world of the Elder Scrolls, and I really hope y'all will follow us on our channel, subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys next time.